All right, everybody, what's going on? This is Scott Garber with my co-host Andrew Petcash. Super excited to come and just have another community get together, highlighting community members that are doing amazing things across the sports tech landscape. Little housekeeping, guys, how we're gonna, run this today. It's gonna be 30 minutes where Andrew and I are gonna run a conversation. If you have questions, drop them in the thread or raise your virtual hand. Once we finish up, we're going to open up for some Q&A. Super excited to introduce Trey Bowles from Techstars, who's going to give you a little background, little insight into the Techstars ecosystem. And, this is going to be a fun, action-packed episode. So, Andrew, anything you want to add on top before we get going?
No, all set. We'll go about 20 minutes. We have a few bullet points outlined for Trey, but pretty simple, and then we'll open it up for anyone else, but pretty actionable.
Awesome. Alrighty, Trey. Well, now you're on the hot seat, my friend. So let's go ahead and just properly introduce yourself to the community, who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and then we'll drill down into the nuts and bolts as we go through the conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Good to be here. Good to see everybody. My name is Trey Bowles. I'm Managing Director for an accelerator group called Techstars. We're a global investment firm. We'll make about 700 investments this year. We have about 43 different programs around the world. The two I focus on, one is called Techstars Anywhere, which is a virtual or remote accelerator, which basically means people don't have to leave their home and they can participate in the program. And the other one I run is called Techstars Physical Health. It's based in Fort Worth, Texas. And that's probably one that's a little bit more relevant to our conversations this morning. Techstars is a pretty well-known accelerator group. It started in about 2006. We make $120,000 investments in every company that we work with. They go through a 13-week program where for us in Fort Worth, they actually come from all over the world. Fort Worth will launch our next program. We'll start on September the 11th. So we just extended all of our invitations to the companies, and they'll be coming here soon. And the idea is that we bring together a network of subject matter experts, exited entrepreneurs, lead executives for different organizations, and experienced people who can come in and actually help those entrepreneurs succeed. So much like any other accelerator, it works a lot the same. I'd say the one thing that I think is really different about what we do is the idea that in most accelerator scenarios, you go through this 13-week program, you get, meet some mentors, get connected to a network, probably meet a few investors. And then at the end of it, they sort of say, hey, good luck. Like if you sell, make sure you send me a check and keep me updated on what you're doing at Techstars. We believe that our relationship with the founder and company starts during the accelerator, but sticks with them until they actually exit their business. And so we continue to be helpful in follow-on rounds for funding and connecting them to alumni that have gone through the program that can be helpful, and then partners, customers, and people like that. So it's very tech focused, but we invest in a lot of different things. For example, my healthcare program has a couple of different focuses. Athletic performance and sports being one of them, but then other things around physical health, anything that improves one's physical health. And that could be mental health or behavioral health related, or it could be actual physical rehabilitation, fluid different elements that we work with and are looking for. And we look at about 3,000 or 4,000 companies a year to make 10 investments. So we spend a lot of time trying to find the best in the world of what they do.
And Trey, on that, I was going to ask, that's good timing. What are you looking for when you're evaluating? Obviously, you get a lot of applications. What's standing out? And then also, how are you evaluating them? And what's the criteria, or what are the main things? Because a lot of these companies are earlier stage as well, which probably creates another unique decision-making process.
Right. Yes, that's a good point. We invest primarily in pre-seed and seed level businesses, so they are early. There's 6 criteria that we look for in the businesses. Criteria 1, 2, and 3 are the same, and it's team. We believe that at this early stage, there's probably going to be a pivot. There's probably going to be some learnings that help them better understand their market or their customer, which will cause them to make some changes to the business. And so we're looking for founders who are coachable first and foremost. If somebody's not going to listen to the network and the mentors and the groups that you bring together, then it doesn't really make sense to send them through the program. Second of all, they have to be able to be decisive and make decisions. You've got, in some cases, a couple hundred mentors giving you advice on what you should do, and they don't always tell you the same advice. And so you have to be able to make a decision and move, and then you've got to be able to persevere and be determined, because as any of you who have built a startup knows, it's like riding in a roller coaster, and the highs are the greatest highs you can ever imagine, and the lows are lower than you can ever imagine. So you have to be able to be persistent and to stick with it. Then we get into things like, okay, what is the market size? We are an investment firm, so we are looking for outsized returns. So we have to make investments in the companies that we think have the biggest opportunity to return capital for us and for our LPs. We do look at traction. Traction can be different at a pre-seed or seed level. A lot of companies at the pre-seed or seed level probably don't have a lot of customers, probably aren't generating a ton of revenue. So I talk to people a lot about the idea of traction being customer discovery, customer interviews, really understanding who your customer is, really doing a good job of explaining what your product or service offering is, and then determining, will they buy it? What will they buy it for? Research, market understanding, things like that are going to be really important at the early stage. But in the end, we're really making a bet on the founders.
And Trey, how'd you get into this space? I'm curious, like what interested you to dive in and work with a ton of companies? And you got some other things. I don't know if you'd call them on the side, or maybe they were prior, but you're doing a lot on the entrepreneurship, startup, helping founders and companies.
Yeah, so my career was spent as an entrepreneur. I started building companies in college, and that was sort of around the dot-com boom and then bust. And so I built companies for a long time in a bunch of different spaces, primarily media and tech. I did stuff in music and television, in online streaming and peer-to-peer file sharing, a bunch of stuff like that. Sold a couple of companies, and then spent basically the last, before the last 2 years, probably 10 years building ecosystem stuff to help support entrepreneurs in North Texas around how to start, build, and grow businesses. Built an entrepreneurship department at a small school in Texas called SMU. Did a bunch of stuff sort of in the nonprofit give back space. And after we had built up all these organizations and they were working and growing, and we had hired people to come in and run them, I said, well, I definitely want to get back to the for-profit space. And I'd known Techstars for a while. Brad Feld, who was one of the founders, had been a friend of mine for a bit, and they called and said, we're launching an accelerator in Texas. Do you want to run it? And although I had worked with about 10,000 startups and made some of my own angel investments, I was like, I wonder how good of an investor I actually am. And so I thought coming and working for Techstars would enhance my ability to be a better investor. It would help me understand the things I knew already, and it would just help me even better at not only supporting founders, which I really enjoyed doing, but being a better founder myself. So that's kind of how I ended up here. And then that kind of expanded to my second program, which is the Generalist Anywhere program. And I do a bunch of different things inside of Techstars right now to help kind of build out our organization and our worldwide imprint on helping founders get better at what they do.
No, that's super cool. Trey, I want to sort of go a layer deeper, if you don't mind, right? As Andrew alluded to, we have quite a few founders on the call. And for my own edification, you guys see 3,000 to 4,000 companies come through. How do you know if a company is better fit for an accelerator versus taking on a friends and family round versus going in and raising a safe? I'm sure you see this at volume. So if you have any insights or tips or nuggets that you can share with our community members, that'd be really helpful.
So I probably take a little bit different approach than most people in this, in that I think most people should go through an accelerator. I think the value, and I can't speak to I've built a couple of accelerators myself, but not at the scale of Techstars. Having now been kind of inside of Techstars and looked under the hood, I can't believe I didn't apply to Techstars as a founder. And the reason I didn't, I said earlier, which is I thought most accelerators they're a great 13-week program, and then they kind of just send you on your way. And having built 20-something companies, I was like, I don't really know that I need the curriculum and the content telling me how to write a financial model or how to, how to create a sales pipeline or whatever the case may be. But what I've learned inside of Techstars is, and what I've learned outside of Techstars is network is everything. And I believe that really, really good companies and really, really good ideas fail because the founders didn't have enough time to generate revenue or enough time to raise capital. And so from my perspective, I would say the network itself is more than 3 times the value of the common stock that you're contributing to get that value. And I often argue with entrepreneurs that that although they think they may be too far along, they're actually not. Interestingly enough, we see a lot of what I call repeat offenders or serial entrepreneurs that come back and do go through Techstars because they understand the value of that network. And for those of us who built companies before, that's the key, is getting in the door faster. And if you can get in the door 5 phone calls faster because you're working inside of this great network, this network that continues to support and give, that's unparalleled in terms of the level of access they have at all levels across the board. So I would tell people that for 6% common stock, which is essentially a co-founder, you can get a co-founder for 6%, or you can get a network with 100,000 people in it for 6%. So I also would say, though, very, very candidly, that although I think Techstars is awesome and you come in and they teach you these great things and they help connect you to this network and they introduce you to investors, it is 100%. The companies that do best are the companies that put the most in, that listen to the feedback, that respond, that take advantage of the resources that are available. If you just come in and sit down and think Techstars is going to hand you a check and then hand you 4 investors with a second check, 6 advisors, 2 board members, like that's just not the way it works. For most people, but the companies that excel are the ones who are willing to really, really work. I saw an interview with Mark Cuban today, and he said most people think it's a win when you get a check. He goes, that's when it starts to work. That's when you have to start working, right? That's just a check is just an obligation, right? You just owe somebody that money back, and so I believe that companies that are, unless you're, Series A or you're doing a few $1 million in revenue, where it makes it really difficult from a cap table perspective to do something like that. But if you think of Techstars as like a co-founder in that common stock place where you're really sitting behind all the preferred investors anyway, kind of your decision to give that stock up. And to me, I think that could be valuable. We've had companies that did, $30 million deals sign up with Techstars before. So it's really about the person individually. But if you feel like you have the time and you have the humility, which repeat offenders often have humility, because we realize how lucky some of these successes are and how much it takes a bunch of people to make a company successful. So that's kind of what I think about when somebody's thinking about whether or not this is a good fit. If somebody's the other side of it is, because we look at so many companies, we see a lot of companies that are very similar, like at idea stage, or just they have an idea and maybe they've raised a little friends and family. And at that point, it really is a matter of just sticking with it. A lot of companies apply 2, 3, 4 times before they get into Techstars, but those stick with it. Really ends up being super, super valuable. And there's something unique about the culture and the ideas that was created by the founders that I think really was about putting the founder first and really figuring out how to make the founder successful.
No, man, spot on. And I mean, brand reputation is everything, and Techstars permeated across, the startup landscape. And so, sometimes it can be a little overwhelming when you walk into a network of that many people. And so I'm always curious, like, how many of the startups that, or founders that you guys work with understand like the human touch? Shout out to my man, Randy Ostrow, but like how to navigate the human element while actually building the business. Because I feel like, blocking and tackling, we come out of school, we understand sort of the mechanics on how to build a business. The human capital is so much more difficult. So if you're not used to it and you come into the Techstar community, do you guys sort of teach people on what to look for when building an advisory board, or why this person would be good for your business? Talk to us a little bit on like how to just, strategically align the human capital along with, what else you guys provide.
Well, as I said before, team is everything, and figuring out how to build a great team is important. I often encourage people to not think of their team as simply the people that they have that are employed, because at the beginning we can't really afford to employ that many people. So it's about going and finding the right advisors. It's about surrounding yourself with mentors and subject matter experts. I also think sometimes we are not aggressive enough when we go out to hire our team. Because we don't think that we can get certain people. We don't think we can afford certain people. And some of the entrepreneurs I respect the most are the one that says, I'm just going to find the best person in the world at this job, and I'm going to go convince him or her that this is the team they need to be on. I think that's where, ESOPs and employee option pools become valuable. I think it also makes you realize that people aren't just working for a paycheck. They want to believe in what they're doing. They want to be a part of a culture that's doing something special and different, a place where they feel valued, where they feel like they can contribute. So we spend a lot of time. We bring in our physical health program has about 250 mentors just for our program, which doesn't count the thousands and thousands of ones that exist across the network. We encourage people to develop those relationships and leverage those in a way that's positive for them, and a give first mentality, so that they can receive from the mentors who are there, but then they can give back. And then a lot of times we see those mentors turn into advisors after the program. We see those mentors turn into investors, angels after the program. I mean, those are the people who are really going to be close to you and seeing what you're doing and how you're doing it. But I do think we go through that process of thinking about, how do you effectively build out a board? Where are the right places go? Because boards are strategic. If you're not careful with the creation of your board, you can find yourself out of a job as a CEO. And so, as you start to raise money, people start to bring in real capital, specifically at price rounds or later, they're going to want a spot on that board. And so you have to be strategic about that. But I also think how you leverage advisors is super important as well. I think a lot of times we sign up advisors not really understanding what we expect of them and what they're going to do. And so I'm very, very prescriptive with my advisors on, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to get for it. This is what I expect of you. And then I'm going to actually make sure I follow up on that, because a lot of situations I'm in, I see people sign up an advisor but never call them. And if that's the case, then, you've just wasted stock on an advisor that could be super valuable, but because you as a founder aren't leveraging them well, that really makes a difference. You have to remember that as a founder, you're not only managing your team, but you're managing your board and your advisors too, which is two different jobs, equally as important, to get the most out of the people that can really help get you especially at an early stage, some of those opportunities to capitalize on and grow the business.
And Trey, from the sports, or we'll call it the macro landscape, or even into the physical health, what are some areas you're looking at or paying attention to, or macro trends of, and I don't know what your last cohort or what some of the future ones are looking like, but I'm sure there's an AI, a little more AI companies, what's sort of the sweet spot, or some areas you have your eyes on, or the Techstars ecosystem does?
Well, I will tell you that out of 3,000 companies I looked at this year, 2,000 of them were doing wearable integration and generative AI stuff. And it was basically, we're going to create this solution. We're going to pull in your data. We're going to connect the data with nutrition and diet data and sleep data. And then we're going to go to your doctor, and we're going to make sure your doctor can interface with that. So the wearable integration piece is interesting. We invested in a company last year called Luvu Technologies that created a foot wearable, which, if you think about it, it's fascinating that we have wearables on our arms. We have wearables everywhere except for at our feet, which is where all motion begins. So it really makes sense to have an integrated wearable there. But so I'm seeing a ton of stuff around personalization of health, wellness, and fitness. And I think that really excites me. I think what we saw through COVID was that because of the rapid acceleration of the adoption of telehealth and digital health solutions, it really transformed as individuals, dare I say individual athletes, depending on your age, the level of prioritization we put around our own personal health, wellness, and fitness. And now that we are being able to personalize more and more and more because of the data that we're able to pull from, because of the AI tools that we're going to be able to utilize in the near future, that prioritization in terms of our health and wellness was maybe in our top 15 priorities before. It's now in the top 3 to 5 priorities. With that comes the willingness to spend disposable income, which also then creates an unbelievable opportunity to support people without having to do something that requires FDA approval, or without something that has to be directly tied into a doctor or a health professional. And so you're seeing unbelievable and unprecedented, technology and health and wellness solutions coming out. I think we'll continue to see that. I think sports we're seeing unbelievable amount of our companies that are wanting to do deals directly with pro and amateur teams and collegiate athletic teams and things like that. The holy grail is youth sports. Really hard to get into that and to really grab substantial market share, but there's just way more kids playing sports than anywhere else. So those are some of the things that we're seeing, and some of the things that I think that we get excited about. I mean, for me, I'm looking for what is trending, and this year the wearables piece is trending, and so, which is really exciting that people are doing that. But when you see 250 companies out of 400 and something applicants all doing the same thing, and they're all super early, you're sort of like, well, I'm not really sure which one to pick. I got to pick one of them because it's happening, but where do I tie in there? And so I think the more that we see people leveraging these different aspects and integrations that are available and adding them into what they're already doing, but doing it with some sort of different niche or focus to differentiate it from everybody. I mean, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, everybody was creating AI by just putting ChatGPT on top of their website. Well, that's not real AI in the way we think about it. And so how are they thinking about different LLMs? How are they thinking about machine learning? How are they utilizing this to get smarter and better and to create something that's unique and an IP that's different and special that creates a niche in the market where they can really succeed?
Love that. And yeah, we can open it up now. So Michael, I know you had a question to start. So if you want to roll us into these, and we'll go to about 10:40, 10:45 Eastern time.
Yeah, sounds great. Trey, thanks for taking the time today. Everything you said truly resonated. And I am someone who went through a prior accelerator and unfortunately was on the receiving end of thanks for playing. Good luck. And I get, they get an update every 3 or 4 months. But in spite of that, the network has been everything and has accelerated us really to the point where we're at today, where we're actively raising capital, have brought in some great partners and checks recently, and have some amazing licenses. I was curious if you, as someone who is literally trying to close a smaller round right now, if you look at investment outside of the accelerator with Techstars or through any syndicates you're a part of that you might be able to recommend, as we have a lot of momentum right now and just looking for that final push.
So I think, and you guys are probably aware of this, but the last 2 years have been really, really different and difficult in venture to raise money. And so depending on what round you're doing or where you are, if you're pre-seed or seed, I really encourage founders to go find individual angels to help start those rounds and get them moving. The likelihood that institutional capital is going to do something at an early stage is less and less. That doesn't mean they won't do it. You do see companies with ideas raising $40 to $60 million, but that's happening because of a relationship, not because their idea is better than yours.
We've seen that. We've totally seen that.
So I would continue to go that route. I think I actually am chairman of an angel network here in North Texas. I think angel networks can be great, but you really have to look at the angel network. I think a mistake we often make is we think, well, it's an angel network. They're an investor. Let's go pitch them, rather than actually looking at the deals they've funded recently, which will be indicative of the type of angels they have. So if you're building a CPG company and most of the deals that they're funding out of their angel network are healthcare related, that's probably not a good place for you to spend your time. So some angel networks are a good thing, but finding those individual angels, figuring out how to take the network you have and have them connect you to other groups. I'm a big fan of SPVs. I think they're really valuable. You can get, somebody who may not be able to make a $50,000 or $100,000 investment can make a $25,000 or $20,000 investment. And that's a good way to raise. If you're talking about less than $1 million, those SPVs are super valuable because $100 to $250,000 in SPV is material in a $1 million raise. And so it's not ideal, but that's what I tell people to do. And then I would say if you are raising over $1 million or something like that, I'd get at least half of it in through angels and then start talking to institutional capital components and ideas that shows traction in a certain way. But I also tell my founders all the time that what you have to sell somebody at a pre-seed or seed level is not, here's what we've accomplished. I sort of change the conversation when somebody says, what kind of traction do you have as a pre-seed company? My argument is, well, we're pre-seed, we don't have much traction, but here's what we need the money for. Here's what we're going to do with it. And here's what we're going to accomplish with that money. We need the money. We've got the customers set up. We've got the deals ready to go. We just have to be able to fund them. And that's usually where you can get an angel involved quicker than you can get maybe institutional capital. And oftentimes angels run in packs, and they can, sit around and help support that. So that's, in terms of syndicates and things like that, that's where I would look, is just leverage the current investors you have, and then be creative, right? Go tell somebody, hey, if I can raise 100 grand, will you match it? And then go raise, 10 checks at $10,000, right? Like it's just, you just have to be creative, and you have to not give up, because I think fundraising is one of the most difficult parts of building a company. It's one of the most frustrating parts of building the company. And then the worst part about it is when you actually raise the money, rather than being happy, you're just relieved. You're like, oh, okay. All right, now we can go. Now we actually have to prove what we're doing. But in terms of specific groups that I work with, it's just so different across the board, because every angel invests in different things. But I do believe that if you can get an angel pretty excited about what you're doing, they usually have friends. I also think there's those accredited investors that don't really realize that they're accredited, or don't really realize what that means. And those are perfect ones to get put into an SPV to just try it out, because a $10,000 or $20,000 check to them, it's super sexy to be able to say I invested in a company, and you're not really risking a lot of money at that point either, which are some of the tools and tricks that I do when I'm trying to raise money with our founders. Is that
great
helpful?
advice, and I think we're doing a lot of it. So thanks for validating.
Good.
That's awesome. Trey, we got one of our members write in a question. When someone applies to be in Techstars, is there a level they have to have gotten to before they apply, or can they be at the ideation stage? Talk to like what you guys are looking for there as far as like company applications.
Yeah. So, again, it's the founder. Like I've met founders. We had a founder in my last program. She did not have a product at all. Zero product. Had an idea. She was so compelling. She was so impressive. I was just like, I want to invest in her. Like she's going to be amazing. So let's do that. And then we brought in the right help at the end of the program. She had a fully functioning product. She's out raising money now. She's leveraging the relationship she has. And so for us, it's you'll have some people that will invest on a napkin, and you'll have some people that'll say, look, I want you to have $2 million in revenue before I invest. All managing directors are different. Obviously, we would prefer as investors to have millions of dollars raised, millions of dollars in revenue, a full team with a full stack tech component to it, but that's just not realistic at a pre-seed level. And so what we're looking for is, we want to know that you're, again, coachable, that you're not going to give up. So how do you prove that you're not going to give up? You've got to have some reason why you're building this company. What is your purpose? Why are you connected to this? And if you can convince us that you're not going to give this up when the going gets hard, then that's a step in the right direction. We look for people who fill out the application correctly, people who, put up the videos that we ask you to put up, people who go to the AMA, like the people who really invest in understanding what's important to Techstars and proving that and showcasing that through the application engagement process is really valuable.
It's almost like the Rudy approach, right? Like, I mean, it takes the mentality, right? And then, you're just working your way on the field. Prul, coming to you in 1 second for your question, but, Trey, I'm super curious, right? We have founders in this group, but we also have, service providers or more freelance folks that have come from the industry that are looking to work with folks that have, come through your accelerator. How do you guys fold them into, the Techstars ecosystem? Is there a proper way to apply for them? How does that relationship work?
So yeah, we have a perks program, which is a great way to get involved, where you can come and offer certain perks to founders. That there's a process we go through that. The other side of it is, just developing a relationship with the founders. I would argue come in and be a mentor for a program. And during the program, you tell anything to the company. After the program, you can, but that's really where you're able to develop a relationship. My argument too would be, if you're an expert, if you're a subject matter expert in something, or even a service provider, getting into the Techstars network, even as a mentor, is incredible, because now you have access to the entire network too. And so you can mingle with, meet, connect with those other mentors who are probably not startup companies, a little further along. That are super valuable. But I would say, and you can kind of see it over my shoulder over here, it says give first. That's really our strategy and our focus at Techstars. And so if you come in and give first, that's the best way to win. And what we tell people all the time is founders are loyal. Like, if you help a founder when they know that you're not getting anything out of it, they're going to remember you. And they don't know 3 accounting firms. They don't know 2 law firms. They don't know any tenant reps to give them office space. So you spend a little bit of time with them and you secure that relationship. Not only do you get access to them, but you get access to all the other companies that they're working with and surrounding themselves with. So start trying to connect into Techstars as a mentor, and then build out from there your opportunity to connect in with the companies.
Such great advice. Give first. I think that's the biggest takeaway from today's call so far. Parul, coming up to you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Trey. Thanks for your advice. I'm Parul. I'm the CEO of Arena, which is an AI recruitment platform for sports media and entertainment. My question for you is actually timely, because I actually have an intro call with Techstars, the LA program, tomorrow. So kind of wondering from your experience, like, what to expect in that call for me and my other co-founders.
Yes. Well, first tell them that you talked to me, and that I suggested that it was really good to talk to the LA team. I think the LA team is really sharp. They're gonna, have you filled out an application yet, or you just got connected to them?
Yeah, we actually applied for other programs and then got connected to them through, like, one of our advisors had a relationship with them. So that's kind of where it came from.
And is this for the September upcoming program, or will it be for the program? Okay, so
yeah,
this
it's for
is
the fall,
so
yeah.
you're okay.
Yeah, they had
So
they had open slots apparently, so we got plugged in.
Awesome. Awesome. So you'll probably talk to Matt Kozloff or somebody high up on his team. They're great. They're going to want to really understand how well you know your business. They're going to want to understand your ability to at this point to scale. They're going to want to understand your sort of, not only your competitive advantage and what makes you different, but what's your defensible moat? Like, what makes it hard for people to compete with you? What does your customer pipeline look like? Like, where is your plan to scale? How do they know that because so many of our companies, 85% of our companies that come through Techstars still exist or have exited. And so that's the exact opposite of my experience. Normally 8 out of 9 or 9 out of 10 companies fail in the first year. So the fact that we flipped that model here really, to me, speaks to the power of what having a network is. But having companies that exist is awesome. Having companies that scale and exit is what we're trying to do. And so they're going to want to understand how you do that. They're going to want to understand the different parts of your team. The fact that you have more than one member on your team is a positive. We have some solo founders that are going to want to understand the tech stack that you're using and how you're building that out yourself, or how you plan to build that out yourself. We love technical co-founders and technical teams there. They're going to want to understand that, again, that you're coachable, that you need Techstars. They're going to ask you, why did you apply to Techstars? What do you expect to get out of Techstars? That's where I would say, look, I'm here to learn. I'm here to grow. I'm here to put in everything I possibly can to leverage the network and give back. But that key thing is they're going to want to really understand the market and how you're going to take a good slice of that market share in the end.
Cool. Awesome.
Good luck.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'll let everybody know how it goes.
Let's go. Yeah, drop an update. And you have to create enough surface area for serendipity to happen. And there it is right there. So super cool. John Barbosa, I think this might be one of the last ones, and then we'll wrap it up with Trey. But floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Scott. Trey, very appreciate everything that you share with us today. I'm also a founder of a sports tech company, but I'm not a tech founder. I'm just a dad trying to build a new toy for his kids. So you mentioned about you use the term "Holy Grail" for youth sports. Would you mind to elaborate a little bit more on why you think that youth sport has like such a gem on it currently?
Well, it's just market size and opportunity, right? The number of kids that play sports versus the number of kids that play college versus the number of young people that, play professional. It's just a much bigger market. But it's fragmented in the way that it works. It's hard to get groups together. It's hard to build. It's really hard to build substantial market share and grow in any given space just because of the way that it's structured. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you could win the youth sports space and pick something that is usable across the entire space, like a huddle, like a something like that that's really been successful, that's where you're talking about a really, really big market opportunity. The problem that investors have with companies that focus on professional sports and collegiate sports is that market is limited. So even if you got I mean, depending on what you charge, but even if you got all the college sports teams and all the pro sports teams, it's still not probably a venture backable initiative. And so the question then is, where are you going outside of that? Like, after you get these groups, which you won't get all of them, but let's assume you get a good chunk of them, where does your market grow so that you can really build a, few $100 million company that can be $1 billion exit, or an IPO? And so that's what we're often looking about and thinking through. Whereas youth sports is, the problem you have there is that people are going to say youth sports great, but there's no way you're going to get a huge market there unless you can prove them otherwise. But unbelievable market opportunity, huge need. Specifically, I've had a lot of companies looking at this idea of preventative injury type stuff, and how do you help kids that are growing and playing sports do so safely so that they can be prepared for longevity and as an athlete. And there's just so many areas to do physical rehabilitation and recovery quickly, and there's just a lot going on and a lot of opportunities there. So I see a lot of people sort of focusing on that youth sports space. Does that answer the Holy Grail question?
Yes, he answers and just gives me more hope on what I'm doing. I just have one follow-up question. Are you still accepting applicants for your next cohort?
We will, this current one's full, but we will start accepting applications in November for both the Techstars Anywhere program, which is remote, which can be any type of company. And then we may have a new accelerator that we're announcing that will be more health focused in the spring. So
perfect. Thanks.
November's when to come back to us.
And we'll be sure to post those updates in the thread so that all the members have access to it. Trey, you've been so great, man. We have one more question from across the pond over there in beautiful Europe. So Marek, you're going to bring us home, my friend, and then we'll get through how to get in touch with you and keep things moving. So last question, floor is yours.
Hey Trey, greetings from Europe. I wanted to ask about financial projections and predictions. So when you're screening pre-seed and seed companies, what do you look for in terms of like this kind of financial models and predictions?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and one we spend a lot of time on. The only thing about a pre-seed or seed financial projection document is that it's wrong, right? It may be high, it may be low, but it's not going to be right. You have no idea. And so where you want to spend your time is behind your assumptions, right? You have to create a certain set of hypotheses and a certain set of assumptions that you build everything off of. And if those assumptions make sense, if those assumptions did to data, whether it's general market data or historical data that you have on your own customer base, That's what's really important. I don't ever look at if I look at a financial model, I kind of look at the number. If somebody says year 2, we're going to generate $147 million in revenue, I kind of go, that's probably not right. Or if somebody says year 6, we're going to make $400,000 in revenue, I'd say, oh, that's great, but that's a small business. That's not really, it's not really an investable company. But what I do look at is, when you generate revenue, what expenses are associated with that? And when you add people, are you effectively showing, from a salesperson's perspective, are you putting the salesperson at 100% capacity of their sales earnings month 1, or do you realize it's going to take them a couple months to ramp up? When you think about, anytime I see hockey stick growth, where you see somebody just do a huge shot up, growth line to the right, my usual response is you can't project hockey stick growth unless you're going to put a ton of money into something. Even then, it doesn't usually hockey stick growth. So there's little things like that you really have to focus on, which is the why. And a lot of times in my financial planning documents, I will write down underneath, or maybe in a different tab, I will write down all my assumptions. I'm assuming a 10% growth month over month for the first 2 years because, and I'll have a reason. Now, look, my reason may be wrong, but what investors won't know your business as well as you will, but they will know the questions to ask you to uncover if you know them right or not. And so what you really have to do is focus on what those things are, why you believe the numbers are going to be what they're going to be. They won't, again, they don't think they're right either, but if they understand and you understand why you're putting them there and they're good assumptions behind them, that's where you really grow. And so the key is, how do you find those assumptions in a market where you don't have a lot of, empirical historical data? And so that's why you got to search online for traditional returns and traditional acquisition costs of companies, of customers in this space, and use that as a baseline and then build and grow off of that.
So insightful, man. I really appreciate it. Andrew, take us home, man. What's on your mind, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
Yeah, no, Trey, appreciate you coming on. I see you dropped the LinkedIn, your LinkedIn in there, so make sure everyone goes and connects with him and there, and then techstars.com, right? And we'll post for applications or anything, but I think that's pretty much good. It was an awesome session.
Yeah, no, this has been great, Trey. This is what we built the community for, so we can come in and actually get under the hood. So appreciate you, my friend. Trey's a member of the community, so that's always a direct way where you can reach out. One point of clarity, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Trey, I know you're on the health and fitness side of things. For our founders that are more sports specific, do you mind shedding a little light if it's, what the separation is between Fort Worth application and Indianapolis, just so we send them in the right direction?
So Fort Worth is more sports and athletic related. So if you're dealing with something that has to do with athletes, sports, actual interaction in that format, then Fort Worth's a great spot for you. If you're thinking about more sports tech stuff, they do a lot of like online betting things and different tech components, projects, things like that. Then Jordan's program in Indianapolis is a great one. If you don't know, reach out to us and we'll tell you. I'll say, oh, you just go to Jordan for that one, and then don't negate the other programs too, right? I tell people we have 2 full-time healthcare programs at Techstars, but we have 25 or 27 managing directors that invest in healthcare to some degree. So any program that is a generalist thesis or doesn't really have a specific focus on one particular area or not, look at that as an option too. Go back and look at some of the investments those accelerators have made, because a lot of our programs have invested in sports or sports tech over the years that could be really, really valuable. So don't limit yourself to just me or Jordan. Also look at LA, or look at LA has a healthcare branch, but they also have just a general, focus there. We've got 3 or 4 programs in New York. We've got one in San Francisco. We've got them all over, and then we've got them all over Europe too. So, and EMEA, and now in Japan. So, look at different ones. If I can be helpful, let me know. If you go to techstars.com/accelerators, you can look and see the different accelerators, what they focus on, when they run, where they are, and find the best one for you. The last thing I would say is if you're going to apply for Techstars, don't just apply for one program. You can apply for 2 programs at any given time. So have a primary and an alternative. Obviously have Fort Worth as your primary. But no, for real, let us know how we can be helpful there. But you can always apply for 2 at the same time. So be thinking about that as well.
That's awesome, man. Trey, thank you again, man. This is what the community is all about. So hope everybody got some nuggets that they can apply back to their business from today's call. And we're doing it again on the 15th with our friends from Sports Radar. So be sure that's on your calendar. And Trey, my man, we'll see you in the community.
Thanks so much.
All right, talk
see
to
you
you
guys later. Have a